Once upon a time, in a meadow filled with wildflowers and buzzing bees, lived a group of tiny friends: Benny the bee, Olive the ladybug, and Timmy the ant. Although they were small, they had the biggest hearts in all the meadow. They were always ready to help others, even when the task seemed much too big for them. One sunny morning, as the friends were gathering nectar, they heard a soft cry. Following the sound, they found Lily the butterfly, her wings tangled in a sticky spider web. Lily flapped and flapped, but the more she tried, the worse it became. "Oh no, how will I ever fly again?" Lily whimpered, her voice shaking. Without hesitation, Benny buzzed up to her. "Don't worry, Lily, we'll help you." Olive, the clever ladybug, inspected the web carefully. "We'll need to work together. Timmy, your strong legs can pull apart the web. Benny, you can fly close and lift her wings while I nibble at the sticky strands." Timmy, though small, was known for his strength. He crawled up the stalk and began pulling the strands of web apart. Olive carefully snipped at the stickiest pieces with her little mandibles, and Benny hovered just above, gently keeping Lily's wings from sticking together. With a little teamwork, Lily was soon free. "Oh, thank you! I thought I'd never fly again," Lily said, fluttering her delicate wings. "You may be tiny, but your hearts are the biggest of all." The tiny friends smiled. They weren't the fastest or the strongest creatures in the meadow, but they knew that being a hero wasn't about size or speed. It was about kindness, teamwork, and having a big heart. From that day on, everyone in the meadow knew that no matter what the problem, the tiny heroes, Benny, Olive, and Timmy, were always ready to lend a helping hand or wing or leg. And so, the meadow bloomed with more than just flowers. It bloomed with friendship, bravery, and the warmth of big hearts.
Once upon a time, Zaid, a curious and adventurous little boy, wandered through a magical forest on his way to visit his grandmother. The forest was enchanted, with shimmering leaves, glittering flowers, and the sweet sound of birds singing. Zaid was so fascinated that he didn't notice he had veered off the path. He came upon a sparkling archway made of vines and flowers. A sign beside it read, "Welcome to Fairyland." With wide eyes and a racing heart, Zaid stepped through the archway. On the other side, Zaid found himself surrounded by tiny, twinkling fairies, each with delicate wings that shimmered like rainbows. "Hello, little boy," said one fairy, fluttering close to him. "I'm Lila. Welcome to Fairyland. What brings you here?" Zaid blinked in wonder. "I don't know. I was just walking, and I found this place. It's amazing." The fairies danced around him, laughing and twirling in the air. They offered Zaid a glittering cupcake that made his mouth tingle with sweetness and tiny glasses of flower nectar to sip. Zaid was delighted and laughed with the fairies, having a wonderful time. But when Zaid tried to leave, he realized something strange. The archway he'd come through had vanished. Instead, there was just a wall of tall, twisting trees with branches that seemed to reach out, as if to say, "Stay with us." Zaid felt his heart sink. "Oh no," he whispered, "I think I'm stuck." Lila noticed his worried face. "Are you okay, Zaid?" she asked. "I don't know how to get back home," Zaid admitted, his voice trembling. "I don't want to be stuck here forever." Lila thought for a moment, then clapped her tiny hands. "I know someone who might be able to help. Follow me." She led him through Fairyland, past sparkling rivers, glowing mushrooms, and animals that spoke in soft, gentle voices. Finally, they reached a beautiful tree with bark as white as snow. In its hollow, there sat a wise old owl named Ali, who knew all about Fairyland and the way out. Lila explained Zaid's situation to Ali. The owl blinked his large golden eyes and gave a gentle hoot. "Ah, you wish to leave Fairyland," Ali said in a deep, slow voice. "The only way back is to find the golden leaf." "Where can I find it?" Zaid asked eagerly. "Not far," Ali replied, "but it is hidden where courage is found and where kindness shines." With those words, he gave Zaid a little wink. Lila led Zaid deeper into the forest until they came to a sparkling waterfall. Suddenly, they heard a faint cry. Following the sound, Zaid found a little rabbit stuck in a thorny bush, trembling in fear. Without thinking, Zaid gently reached into the bush, carefully freeing the rabbit from the thorns. As he did, something incredible happened. A golden leaf floated down from above, shimmering like the sun. Zaid gasped and held out his hands to catch it. "You did it," cheered Lila. The golden leaf appears for those with courage and kindness. With the leaf in hand, Zaid felt a soft, warm glow surrounding him. Suddenly, he was back in the forest near his grandmother's house. The magical archway had disappeared, but in his pocket, he found a single tiny golden leaf, a reminder of his adventure in fairyland. As he ran toward his grandmother's house, Zaid knew he would never forget his magical friends or the day he found courage and kindness deep in fairyland.
Once upon a time, in a peaceful pond surrounded by tall reeds and blooming lilies, lived a mother duck named Daisy. Daisy had 5 little ducklings: Quack, Peep, Waddle, Fluff, and Pip. Every morning, Daisy would gather her little ones and take them on an adventure around the pond. One sunny day, Daisy led her ducklings to a nearby meadow filled with colorful flowers. "Stay close to me," she quacked, keeping an eye on her curious little ones. But Pip, the smallest and most adventurous of them all, was fascinated by a bright blue butterfly fluttering nearby. While Daisy and the other ducklings waddled through the grass, Pip chased the butterfly. She followed it through a little grove of trees and over a tiny hill until, all of a sudden, she looked around and realized she was lost. Pip quacked in a small, frightened voice. "Mama!" "Quack? Fluff?" Back at the meadow, Daisy noticed Pip was missing. "Oh no," she quacked in worry, and the other ducklings joined her, calling out for their little sister. Daisy waddled as fast as she could back towards the grove of trees, listening for any sound. Finally, after searching, she heard a tiny, faint quack coming from the other side of the hill. Daisy hurried over, and there was Pip, peeking out from behind a tall blade of grass, looking very relieved to see her mama. "Oh, Pip, I told you to stay close," Daisy quacked gently, nuzzling her little one. "I'm sorry, Mama," Pip quacked back. "The butterfly was so pretty, but I don't want to be lost again." Daisy smiled and gathered Pip under her wing. Together with her other ducklings, they waddled safely back to the pond. That night, Daisy tucked her ducklings under her warm wings, whispering, "Remember, my loves, no matter where you go, I'll always come find you." And with happy hearts, the ducklings drifted off to sleep, knowing they were safe and loved.
Emma was walking through a quiet forest when she noticed a tiny, trembling baby rabbit huddled under a bush. She paused, sensing that the little rabbit needed help. Slowly, Emma knelt down, reaching out her hand toward the rabbit. It watched her cautiously, unsure but curious. After a moment, the baby rabbit sniffed Emma's hand and then nuzzled into her palm. Emma smiled softly, realizing the rabbit was beginning to trust her. The rabbit hopped closer and snuggled into Emma's lap. She gently stroked its soft fur, feeling the warmth of their new friendship. With the rabbit safely in her arms, Emma continued walking through the forest. The trees swayed gently, and birds flew overhead as they walked together. Emma brought the rabbit to her colorful garden, filled with flowers. The rabbit explored its new surroundings, happily hopping through the grass. It played joyfully among the flowers while Emma watched, content knowing the rabbit had found a safe place to call home. As the day ended, Emma waved goodbye as the rabbit curled up under a bush to sleep. She smiled, knowing they would meet again.
Once upon a time, in a lush green jungle, there lived a giant crocodile named Carl. But Carl wasn't like other crocodiles. He wasn't sneaky or scary, he was silly, always full of laughter and fun. While other crocodiles liked to hide in rivers and snap at fish, Carl enjoyed playing games, telling jokes, and making funny faces. Carl was so big that he often accidentally knocked things over with his tail. He would apologize with a goofy grin and say, "Oops. My tail is just too silly." The Jungle Carnival Announcement. One day, a big announcement was made in the jungle. There would be a grand jungle carnival with contests, rides, and prizes. All the animals were excited. There was a race for the fastest animals, a contest for the best dancers, and a prize for the funniest joke. Carl couldn't wait. He knew he wasn't fast, and he wasn't much of a dancer, but he loved telling jokes. He decided to enter the funniest animal contest. "Wait till everyone hears my jokes," Carl giggled to himself, "I'll be the funniest crocodile ever." Carl spent the whole week practicing his jokes. He would stand by the river and make funny faces at his reflection. Sometimes he even told his jokes to the birds flying by, and they chirped with laughter. On the day before the carnival, Carl decided to test his jokes on his jungle friends. He found Leo the lion first. "Hey Leo. Why did the crocodile bring a pencil to the river?" Carl asked with a big grin. Leo scratched his head. "I don't know, why?" "Because he wanted to draw attention." Carl laughed so hard he rolled over, knocking a tree down with his tail. Leo chuckled but then said, "It's funny, Carl, but you need to work on your delivery." Carl wasn't sure what Leo meant, but he continued practicing with other animals. Each time, they laughed, but Carl felt like something was missing. Finally, the day of the jungle carnival arrived. The jungle was buzzing with excitement. There were colorful banners, tasty treats, and all sorts of games. When it was time for the funniest animal contest, Carl was nervous but excited. The stage was set, and the animals gathered around to watch. One by one, contestants went up, telling jokes and making everyone laugh. It was finally Carl's turn. He waddled up to the stage and took a deep breath. "Why don't crocodiles ever tell secrets?" he began. "Why?" the audience called out. "Because they're afraid they might snap." Carl burst into laughter at his own joke, wiggling his huge tail and accidentally knocking over a bunch of bananas that splattered everywhere. The animals stared in silence for a second, then burst out laughing, not just at the joke, but at Carl's silly tail accident. Carl had no idea why they were laughing so hard, but he kept going. And why did the crocodile sit on a clock? Why, the animals cheered. Because he wanted to be on time. Carl's tail knocked into the carnival tent, making it flop to the ground like a pancake. The audience roared with laughter. Carl couldn't believe it. Even though his tail kept knocking things over, everyone thought he was hilarious. He didn't just tell funny jokes, his big, silly accidents made everyone laugh even harder. At the end of the contest, the judges announced Carl as the winner of the funniest animal contest. He couldn't believe it. The jungle cheered, and Carl blushed under his scaly skin. As he received his prize, a giant trophy shaped like a banana, Carl realized something important. He didn't need to be perfect to be funny, his big, silly self was enough. From that day on, Carl became the jungle's favorite comedian. He told jokes, made funny faces, and even started his own comedy show. And while his tail still knocked things over, it just made everyone laugh even more.
In a beautiful forest where the trees stood tall and proud, there lived a little leaf named Lenny. He was bright green, fresh, and full of life. Lenny lived high up in a tall oak tree, swaying gently in the breeze with his fellow leaves. Every day, Lenny would look around, admiring the beauty of the forest and chatting with the birds and squirrels that lived nearby. But as summer came to an end and autumn began to paint the trees with shades of gold, orange, and red, something started to change. Lenny noticed that one by one, the leaves around him were beginning to turn colors and fall from the tree. His friends waved goodbye as they floated down to the ground, carried gently by the wind. Lenny, though, was different. He loved his tree and didn't want to leave. He was afraid of falling and didn't know what waited for him below. He held onto the branch as tightly as he could, even as the other leaves drifted away. One crisp autumn morning, as Lenny sat nervously on his branch, he noticed a fluffy white cloud floating overhead. The cloud was bouncing along, full of energy, and seemed quite curious about everything it passed. "Hello down there," the cloud called in a cheerful voice. "I'm Cora, the curious cloud." "What are you doing?" "I'm Lenny," the little leaf replied, looking up at the cloud. I'm waiting. All my friends have fallen to the ground, but I'm not ready yet. I'm afraid of what might happen." Cora floated closer, intrigued. "Afraid? What's there to be afraid of?" Lenny sighed. "I don't know what will happen when I fall. What if the wind blows me too far away? Or what if I land somewhere scary? I've never been on the ground before." Cora puffed up with confidence. "Oh, the ground is a wonderful place. I've seen it all as I float through the sky. There are soft meadows, sparkling rivers, and animals to meet. Every part of the world is different and special." Lenny wasn't so sure. "But I've been here all my life. It's safe up here. What if I'm not brave enough to let go?" Cora drifted even closer, her soft, fluffy form comforting to the nervous leaf. "Sometimes, letting go is how we find out how brave we really are," she said. "Look at me, I never know where the wind will take me, but that's what makes each day an adventure." Lenny thought about this. Maybe Cora was right. Maybe there was more to the world than just the view from his branch. As the days passed, the wind blew a little stronger, and Lenny's green color began to change into a brilliant golden yellow. The time was coming, and Lenny knew he couldn't stay in the tree forever. One particularly breezy afternoon, Cora returned. "Are you ready yet, Lenny?" she asked, floating above him. Lenny took a deep breath. "I think I might be." Just as he was about to let go, a strong gust of wind came through the forest, and with a soft snap, Lenny's stem finally broke free from the branch. For a moment, he was scared, tumbling through the air, but then he remembered Cora's words. "Enjoy the adventure," she called from above. The wind carried Lenny gently, lifting him high and low, twirling him around in the sky like a dancer. As he floated down, he began to see the world from a new perspective.
In a vibrant jungle filled with tall trees, colorful flowers, and playful animals, lived a little leopard named Lila. She had a beautiful spotted coat and sparkling eyes, and she was full of energy and curiosity. However, despite her lively spirit, Lila often felt shy when she was around the bigger animals. These animals would roar loudly and play boldly, which made Lila feel small and uncertain. She longed to join their fun, but something always held her back. One sunny morning, as she lounged on a warm rock, Lila watched a group of monkeys swinging effortlessly from branch to branch. The way they moved, so fearless and free, filled her with envy. "I wish I could swing like them," she thought longingly. But her doubts soon crept in. "What if I'm not as good as they are?" she worried. Just as she was lost in thought, her wise friend Tully, the tortoise, slowly approached. "What's troubling you, Lila?" he asked gently, sensing her hesitation. Lila sighed and confessed, "I want to be brave like the monkeys, but I don't think I have what it takes." Tully smiled at her with his kind, knowing eyes. "You have your own special talents, Lila. You just need to find them," he encouraged her. Feeling inspired by Tully's words, Lila made up her mind to discover what made her special. Determined and excited, she set off on an adventure into the deeper parts of the jungle. Along the way, she met Benny, a cheerful little bird who was fluttering between the branches. "Where are you going, Lila?" Benny chirped curiously. "I'm off to find my special talent," Lila exclaimed with newfound enthusiasm. Benny, ever the curious companion, flapped his wings eagerly. "Can I come with you? We'll find it together." The two friends ventured further into the heart of the jungle. As they wandered, they came across a fast-flowing river where a group of monkeys stood helpless on the edge. They were trying to cross, but the current was too strong, and they were stuck. "We can't swim," one of the monkeys wailed in frustration. Lila watched them struggle and suddenly felt a spark of courage. She might not be able to swing like the monkeys, but she could do something they couldn't. "I can help," she shouted. Without hesitation, Lila scrambled up the nearest tree, her claws gripping the bark easily. With her agile movements, she stretched out a sturdy branch across the river, creating a natural bridge for the monkeys to cross. One by one, they scampered across the makeshift bridge, cheering and laughing as they reached the other side. "Hooray for Lila!" they cried, full of gratitude and admiration. Lila beamed with pride. At that moment, she realized that her talent wasn't about being the loudest or the fastest. It was about helping others. As the sun began to set, the jungle animals gathered to celebrate Lila's bravery. They praised her cleverness and called her a hero. The monkeys swung around her, chanting, "Lila the helper." Tully the tortoise, who had been watching all along, gave her a wise, proud smile. "See, Lila, you don't need to be the biggest or the loudest to make a difference. You just need to be yourself." From that day on, Lila embraced her unique talents with confidence. Whether it was climbing trees, helping animals, or exploring new places, she knew she had something special to offer. Every time the jungle faced a challenge, the animals would say, "Let's ask Lila." And with a twinkle in her eye, Lila would always be ready for her next big adventure, proud to be exactly who she was.
Mila was a young girl who lived in the icy glaciers, surrounded by snow-covered mountains. One morning, while exploring the frosty landscape, she stumbled upon a playful panda cub named Bao. He had soft black and white fur and curious, twinkling eyes. Mila and Bao quickly became best friends. They would slide down the frozen slopes together, laughing as they tumbled through the snow. Every day, they explored the icy caves and glittering frozen rivers. One day, while playing near the edge of a glacier, they heard a loud cracking sound. The ice beneath them began to break. Mila quickly grabbed Bao's paw and pulled him to safety just in time. The two friends were shaken, but they knew they had to be more careful. To warm up after their scare, Mila built a small fire using some sticks she had found. She and Bao sat together, enjoying the warmth and watching the flames dance. The icy winds howled outside, but they felt safe together. As night fell, the northern lights began to appear in the sky. Mila and Bao looked up in awe as the colorful lights danced above the glaciers. It was a magical moment, and they knew their friendship was as special as the glowing sky. The next day, the two friends discovered an ancient frozen waterfall hidden deep in the mountains. The ice sparkled like diamonds, and they both marveled at its beauty. Mila promised Bao that they would keep exploring these magical glaciers together. With each passing day, their bond grew stronger. Together, they would build snow forts, watch the stars, and keep each other safe in their icy home, knowing that even in the coldest places, true friendship could warm the heart.
Once upon a time, in the peaceful kingdom of Solaria, there lived a young princess named Ilara. Unlike the other royals who loved the castle's grandeur, Ilara yearned for adventure. She didn't care much for balls or courtly meetings. Instead, she spent her time reading tales of distant lands, brave explorers, and daring pirates who sailed across the endless seas. One day, after a long and tiring week of royal duties, Ilara overheard her father, the king, planning her future. He intended to marry her off to a prince from a nearby kingdom. The idea of living a predictable life in another castle made Ilara's heart sink. "I have to find my own path," she whispered to herself. That night, when the castle was quiet, Ilara made a decision. She packed a small satchel with some clothes, a map she'd found in the royal library, and a loaf of bread from the kitchen. Then, with her heart racing, she slipped out of the castle and headed toward the docks, where she had heard rumors of a pirate ship that was said to sail at dawn. A fateful encounter. As she approached the docks, Ilara spotted a large ship with black sails gently swaying in the moonlit water. Its flag fluttered in the breeze, bearing the emblem of a fierce serpent wrapped around a sword. The Crimson Serpent, they called it, the most notorious pirate ship in all the seas. Without hesitation, Ilara snuck aboard and hid behind a stack of barrels on deck, hoping to stow away until the ship set sail. However, her plan was quickly foiled. Well, what do we have here?" a voice called out, startling Ilara. She turned to see a young pirate standing over her. He wore a crooked grin, his dark hair falling into his eyes. He didn't look as menacing as the stories had said. In fact, he was closer to her age than she expected. I'm not here to cause trouble," Ilara stammered. "I just want to leave the kingdom and explore the world. Please, don't turn me in." The young pirate tilted his head, intrigued. "A princess on the run? Now that's something you don't see every day." He gave a whistle, and soon the captain of the ship emerged from below deck. Captain Myra, a fierce woman with wild hair and a sharp gaze, looked Ilara up and down. "You've got guts, princess, sneaking onto my ship. But you've picked the wrong crew to mess with." Ilara stood tall, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "I didn't sneak aboard to mess with anyone. I just want freedom, to see the world beyond the castle walls." Captain Myra studied her for a long moment, then threw her head back in laughter. "I like this one. She's got spirit," she declared. "All right, princess, we'll take you aboard, but you'll have to earn your keep. No royal treatment here." Ilara nodded eagerly. She had no idea what pirate life would entail, but anything was better than a life locked away in a castle. A new kind of adventure. Life aboard the Crimson Serpent was nothing like Elara had expected. The crew, though rough around the edges, welcomed her once she proved her worth. She learned to tie knots, clean the decks, and even handle a sword under the tutelage of the young pirate who had found her, whose name was Finn. Finn was the ship's navigator, known for his daring escapes and clever tricks. At first, he teased Elara about her royal upbringing, but soon they formed a friendship. They would stay up late on the deck, talking about their dreams, Elara's of freedom and Finn's of discovering uncharted lands. Together, they faced many perils. There were fierce storms that nearly sank the ship, sea monsters that lurked in the deep, and rival pirate crews that challenged the Crimson Serpent. But through it all, Elara felt more alive than ever before. One day, while exploring a remote island, the crew stumbled upon a hidden treasure map said to lead to the lost Isle of Azura, a place filled with unimaginable riches. Excitement buzzed through the crew, but Captain Myra warned them that many had sought the isle and never returned. "We'll need to be careful," Myra said. "But if we make it to Azura, we'll be the most legendary crew in all the seas." A test of courage. As they sailed toward the Isle of Azura, Elara felt a growing sense of anticipation. But there was also a danger she couldn't ignore. Whispers among the crew spoke of a great beast guarding the isle, a creature so fearsome, no one who had seen it lived to tell the tale. On the eve of their arrival, Finn and Elara sat on the deck, looking out at the moonlit horizon. "Are you scared?" Elara asked. Finn shrugged. "I've faced plenty of dangers before. But this feels different. What about you? You've come a long way from the princess who snuck aboard in the night." Elara smiled. "I've learned so much from all of you. I feel like I belong here. But part of me still wonders if I'm truly cut out for this life." Finn turned to her, his expression serious. "You've got more courage than half the crew, Elara. You belong out here, making your own choices. And no matter what happens tomorrow, I'm glad we've done this together." The next day, they reached the Isle of Azura, a lush island shrouded in mist. As they explored the dense jungle, the crew discovered ancient ruins and piles of gold. But before they could celebrate, a deafening roar echoed through the trees. The beast had arrived. The final showdown. From the shadows emerged a massive creature with scales like polished obsidian and eyes that glowed with an eerie light. It was part dragon, part serpent, towering over the crew with its long, coiling body. Captain Myra drew her sword. "No backing down now, crew. Stand your ground." A fierce battle erupted. The pirates fought bravely, but the beast was relentless. Just as all seemed lost, Elara noticed something, a shimmering pendant around the creature's neck, similar to the royal amulets she had seen in her father's treasury. "Finn! The pendant! It's controlling the beast!" Elara shouted. Together, they devised a plan. While the crew distracted the beast, Elara and Finn climbed a nearby rock formation. With a leap of faith, Elara managed to grab hold of the pendant and pull it free. The beast let out one final roar before collapsing to the ground, its glowing eyes fading. With the pendant destroyed, the island returned to peace, and the crew gathered the treasure. A new beginning. As the Crimson Serpent set sail for home, Elara realized something. She had found what she was looking for, not in treasure or riches, but in the friendships she had made and the freedom she had fought for. When they docked back at Solaria, Captain Myra offered Elara a permanent place on the crew. "You've earned your spot, princess," she said with a grin. But Elara smiled and shook her head. "Thank you, but I think my adventure is just beginning. There are still many seas I want to explore, but I'll find my own way." Finn walked her to the docks, a knowing smile on his face. "Until we meet again, Princess Elara." Elara waved goodbye to the crew and set off into the horizon, ready for whatever new adventure awaited her next. And so, the princess became the captain of her own destiny, free to chart her course through the world, wherever the winds of adventure might take her.
In the heart of the wintry kingdom of Frostvale, where snow blanketed every mountain and ice covered every lake, lived a young princess named Serafina. Unlike any other princess, Serafina had been born with a magical gift: she could control ice and snow. Her touch could freeze water, and her breath could summon snowflakes that danced in the air. While the kingdom adored her, she often felt isolated, as her powers kept her in Frostvale's eternal winter. Serafina loved her kingdom, but secretly, she yearned for something more. She had read books about distant lands filled with sunshine, flowers, and warm beaches, places where the cold winds didn't bite and where green grass grew instead of frost. The idea of a place so different from her snowy home fascinated her, but her father, King Aldrich, had always warned her against leaving Frostvale, as her powers might go out of control in the warmer climates. One evening, as she sat by the window of her ice palace, watching the snowflakes fall gently, Serafina sighed. She had seen every snowstorm, every icy peak, and every frozen river in her kingdom, but never had she felt the warmth of the sun on her face or the softness of grass under her feet. "I just want to see what it's like," she whispered to herself. And so, she made a bold decision. The next morning, with the rising of the pale winter sun, Serafina donned her warmest cloak, packed a small bag, and set off secretly from the palace. She followed the hidden paths through the snow-covered forest, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. A journey beyond winter. For days, Serafina traveled south, leaving behind the icy winds and frozen lakes of Frostvale. With each step, the snow became thinner, the air warmer, and the sky brighter. Her powers, however, began to react strangely. Where her feet touched the ground, frost followed, and small snowflakes continued to swirl around her, no matter how far she traveled. After several days, Serafina reached the edge of a vast, green valley, a place she had only read about in her books. The air smelled fresh, flowers bloomed, and the sun hung high in the sky, its golden rays pouring warmth over everything. Serafina gasped in awe as she stepped onto the soft grass. She felt the sun's warmth on her skin for the first time, and it made her heart soar. She wanted to run through the fields, dip her toes in the rivers, and feel the warmth she had longed for all her life. But with every step she took, frost crept over the flowers, freezing them in place, and her breath summoned chilly winds that twisted through the valley. "Oh no," Serafina whispered, watching as a patch of vibrant flowers wilted under a layer of frost. "I can't control it." Despite her best efforts, the warmth around her began to fade as her icy powers followed her. Trees froze, streams turned to ice, and the gentle breeze became a biting cold wind. She had brought winter with her. Feeling disheartened, Serafina wandered deeper into the valley, careful not to touch anything for fear of freezing it. But as she walked, she heard a voice, a soft, cheerful hum coming from nearby. Meeting Luca. Curious, Serafina followed the sound and soon found a boy about her age sitting by a bubbling brook. He had sun-kissed skin and wore light, summer clothes that fluttered in the breeze. His name was Luca, and he smiled warmly when he saw Serafina, though his smile faltered as he noticed the frost trailing behind her. "You're not from around here, are you?" Luca asked, raising an eyebrow at the ice forming at her feet. Serafina shook her head. "No, I come from a place far north, a kingdom of snow and ice. I only wanted to see the warmth and beauty of this land, but I can't stop my powers from freezing everything." Luca looked at the frost and then back at Serafina. Instead of being afraid, he grinned. "Well, you're in luck. My family are the guardians of this valley, and we have a little magic of our own." He stood up and beckoned her to follow him. Together, they walked through the valley until they reached a cozy cottage nestled among the trees. Luca's family greeted Serafina with warmth and kindness, unbothered by the cold that seemed to follow her. Luca's grandmother, a wise woman with twinkling eyes, told Serafina that the valley was special. It had ancient, magical roots that protected it from harm. "Your powers are strong, but they don't belong to this place," the grandmother explained. "However, there is a way to balance the warmth and cold," so that both can exist in harmony. Serafina's eyes widened with hope. How? The grandmother took out a small, enchanted pendant shaped like a sun. This pendant was made long ago by the guardians of the valley. It has the power to absorb and contain magical energy, allowing the wearer to control their powers more easily. With this, you'll be able to enjoy the warmth of summer without turning it into winter. Serafina eagerly accepted the pendant. The moment she placed it around her neck, she felt a gentle warmth spread through her, and for the first time since leaving Frostvale, the frost stopped forming at her feet. The cold winds subsided, and the flowers around her unfroze, blooming once again. I can feel it working, Serafina exclaimed with a delighted smile. She turned to Luca and his family, her heart swelling with gratitude. Thank you. You've given me more than I could have ever hoped for. With the pendant's help, Serafina was able to explore the valley without causing winter to follow her. She spent days wandering through meadows, swimming in the cool rivers, and basking in the warm sun. Luca became her guide and friend, showing her the hidden wonders of the valley, from secret waterfalls to fields of lavender that stretched as far as the eye could see. Though she missed her kingdom, Serafina knew that she would return home soon, but now with a new understanding of herself and her powers. The valley had shown her that even though she was the princess of a winter kingdom, she could still enjoy the warmth of other places. When the time came for her to return to Frostvale, Luca and his family waved her off with promises of future visits. Serafina returned to her icy kingdom, but now, whenever she longed for the warmth of summer, she knew exactly where to go. And so, the Snow Princess of Frostvale had found a way to balance the winter in her heart with the warmth of the world beyond, forever grateful for the magical summer escape that changed her life.
Sammy lived in a peaceful village and loved helping others. One morning, he saw an elderly woman struggling with a basket of vegetables and quickly offered to help her. She smiled gratefully as they walked together. Later, Sammy noticed a broken fence and offered to fix it for his neighbor. With a hammer and nails, he made sure it was sturdy once again. As the day went on, he fetched water for a busy mother and helped feed chickens at a nearby farm. While there, Sammy comforted a young child who had lost a toy, finding it and returning it with a smile. At lunchtime, Sammy shared his meal with a friend who had forgotten their food. Then, he joined other villagers in planting trees to make the village greener. In the afternoon, Sammy helped a farmer carry hay, fixed a friend's bicycle, and swept the village pathways to keep them clean. Before the day ended, he even guided a lost traveler and helped build a playground for the children. As the sun set, Sammy stood on a hill overlooking the village, feeling proud of the kindness he shared. His small acts made a big difference in everyone's lives.
Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a beautiful princess named Snow White. Her skin was as white as snow, her lips as red as blood, and her hair as black as ebony. Snow White's mother had passed away when she was very young, and her father, the king, remarried a woman who was beautiful but very vain and wicked. The queen, Snow White's stepmother, had a magic mirror that she would consult every day, asking, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" For years the mirror would reply, "You, O queen, are the fairest of them all." But as Snow White grew older, her beauty surpassed even that of the queen. One day when the queen asked the mirror her usual question, it replied, "Snow White is the fairest of them all." Enraged with jealousy, the queen decided to get rid of Snow White. She called a huntsman and ordered him to take Snow White into the forest and kill her. But the kind huntsman could not bring himself to harm the innocent princess. Instead, he let her go, telling her to run far away and never return to the castle. Frightened and alone, Snow White wandered deep into the dark forest. After some time, she came upon a small, charming cottage. Inside, she found 7 little beds and a tiny table with 7 chairs. Exhausted, she fell asleep. The cottage belonged to 7 dwarfs who worked in the nearby mines. When they returned home and found Snow White, they were surprised but welcomed her kindly. Snow White explained her story, and the dwarfs, moved by her plight, invited her to stay with them. In return, she helped them with their household chores. Meanwhile, the evil queen discovered through her magic mirror that Snow White was still alive and living with the dwarfs. Furious, she disguised herself as an old peddler woman and went to the dwarf's cottage, determined to finish what she had started. The queen offered Snow White a beautiful, shiny poisoned apple. Unaware of the danger, Snow White took a bite, and immediately she fell to the ground, as if dead. When the dwarfs returned home and found Snow White, they were heartbroken. Believing her to be dead, they placed her in a glass coffin in the forest, where they could watch over her. Time passed, and one day a prince who had heard of Snow White's beauty came across the glass coffin. He was so struck by her beauty and sadness that he leaned down to kiss her. Miraculously, the kiss broke the spell, and Snow White awoke. Overjoyed, the dwarfs and the prince celebrated Snow White's return to life. Snow White and the prince soon fell in love and were married in a grand ceremony. The wicked queen, upon learning of Snow White's revival, was so enraged that she lost all her powers and disappeared forever. Snow White and the prince lived happily ever after, and peace returned to the kingdom.
Once upon a time, deep in a lush, green forest, lived a brave tiger named Taro and a clever rabbit named Rhea. Though they were very different in size and strength, they had one thing in common: they were best friends. Every day, Taro and Rhea explored the forest together. Taro, with his strong paws and sharp eyes, would help Rhea reach high branches to pick the sweetest fruits. Rhea, with her quick thinking and swift little legs, would find hidden paths to the best places to rest and play. One sunny afternoon, while they were playing near the river, Taro spotted something strange in the water. It was a large log stuck in the middle of the stream. "That log could block the flow of water to the village pond," said Taro. "We need to move it." Taro used all his strength to push the log, but it wouldn't budge. Seeing her friend struggle, Rhea quickly thought of a plan. "Wait, Taro," she said. "Let me try something." Rhea hopped onto the log and noticed that the water was flowing faster on one side. "We can use the water to help us," she exclaimed. She gathered some rocks and placed them in a way that the water would flow even faster toward the log. As the water grew stronger, it started to push the log slowly but surely. Taro, watching closely, joined in and gave the log one last big push with his powerful paws. Together, they managed to free the log and let the river flow freely again. "Wow, Rhea. That was such a clever idea," said Taro, smiling proudly at his friend. "And you were so strong, Taro. I couldn't have done it without you," Rhea replied. From that day on, the animals in the forest admired the friendship between the brave tiger and the clever rabbit. They learned that even though Taro was big and strong, and Rhea was small and quick, they made the perfect team because they helped each other in ways no one else could. And so, Taro and Rhea continued to explore the forest together, proving that true friendship doesn't depend on size or strength but on trust, teamwork, and always looking out for each other.
Once upon a time, in a beautiful meadow filled with colorful flowers and tall trees, there stood a charming little house. It was home to a lovely mother goat and her 4 playful kids, Callow, Muno, Chunu, and Malo. The house was bright and cozy, with windows that sparkled like the morning dew, and a door that was always locked to keep the little ones safe. Every morning, the mother goat would go to work and tell her children, "Be good while I'm away, and remember, never open the door for anyone except me." The kids nodded eagerly, playing and dancing around the house. But nearby there lived a cunning and greedy sheep who had his eyes set on the goat's children. "If only I could trick them," the sheep thought, licking his lips. Day after day, the sheep tried to sneak in. He knocked on the door pretending to be their mother, but Callow, the eldest, would peek through the window and say, "That's not our mother's voice. You can't fool us." The kids laughed and stayed safe inside. One day, however, the clever sheep came up with a trick. He disguised his voice and covered his wool with flour to look more like the mother goat. When the kids heard the knock and saw the white figure, they thought their mother had come home. Little Chunu, the youngest, ran to open the door. But as soon as the door opened, the sheep rushed in. The kids screamed, but it was too late. The greedy sheep gobbled up all 4 of them, Callow, Muno, Chunu, and Malo, before running off to sleep under a tree, his stomach round and full. Later that afternoon, the mother goat returned home, only to find her house quiet and empty. Panic filled her heart. "Where are my children?" she cried, searching everywhere. As she looked around, she noticed the door was open and saw the sheep sleeping under the tree nearby, his belly bulging unnaturally. The mother goat knew instantly what had happened. Without a moment to lose, she grabbed a sharp knife and approached the sleeping sheep quietly. With a swift motion, she cut open his big, round tummy, and to her relief, out tumbled Kalo, Muno, Chunu, and Malo safe and sound. The mother goat hugged her kids tightly, so grateful they were unharmed. "We'll never open the door again, Mama," the kids promised. Together they filled the sheep's belly with stones, and when he finally woke up and tried to run away, he was so heavy that he stumbled and tumbled far away, never to be seen again. From that day on, the goat family lived happily and peacefully in their beautiful house, always safe and sound.
Once upon a time, in a lush green forest, there lived a mother tiger named Shira and her little princess, Tia. Shira was strong and wise, known as the queen of the forest. She taught Tia many things about courage, kindness, and how to protect those she loved. Tia admired her mother's strength, but sometimes she felt too small to ever be as brave as Shira. One day, as Tia was playing near a stream, she heard a faint cry coming from the bushes. She cautiously approached and found a tiny fawn, tangled in a vine, looking scared and helpless. Tia felt her heart racing. She was frightened, unsure of what to do. Her mother wasn't nearby to help, and she was just a little tiger cub. But then she remembered her mother's words, "Courage is not the absence of fear but the strength to do the right thing, even when you're scared." Tia took a deep breath, gathered her courage, and began to untangle the vine from the fawn's leg. She was gentle, just as her mother had shown her, and soon the little fawn was free. It looked up at Tia gratefully, then disappeared into the forest. When Shira returned, Tia excitedly shared her story. Shira smiled with pride and said, "Being brave doesn't mean you're never scared. It means helping others, even when you are." From that day on, Tia felt a little stronger, knowing that bravery came from the heart, not just from size. And she knew that, like her mother, she could make a difference in the world, one kind act at a time. Moral: true courage means doing the right thing, even when you're afraid. Once upon a time, in a cozy little bakery, a baker named Mrs. Whisk whipped up a special treat for the holiday season. She rolled out the dough, added a sprinkle of sugar, and shaped it into a dashing little figure. Instead of a gingerbread man, though, she made a dingerbread man, adding a tiny silver bell on his hat that would go ding whenever he moved. Mrs. Whisk placed him in the oven and set the timer. But as soon as the bell rang, ding, out popped the dingerbread man. He leaped out of the oven, wiggling his hands and feet, and his bell went ding ding ding. "Oh no, you don't," cried Mrs. Whisk, rushing toward him. But the dingerbread man was quick on his feet. He called out, "Run, run, as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the dingerbread man." And off he went, dashing out of the bakery with a happy ding-ding. As he ran through town, he met a cow grazing in the field. "Stop, dingerbread man. I want to eat you up," mooed the cow. But the dingerbread man just laughed. "Run, run, as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the dingerbread man." With a merry ding-ding, he sped off, leaving the cow behind. Next, he ran into a duck splashing in a pond. "Stop, dingerbread man. I'm hungry for a treat," quacked the duck. But the dingerbread man just grinned. "Run, run, as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the dingerbread man." And with a cheerful ding-ding, he zoomed past the duck. The dingerbread man ran past a horse, a squirrel, and even a big brown bear, each one trying to catch him but failing to keep up. He laughed and jingled, delighting in his escape. Finally, the dingerbread man came to a river. He looked at the water and realized he couldn't swim. Just then, a clever fox appeared. "Oh, little dingerbread man, you look tired. Hop onto my back, and I'll carry you across the river," said the fox with a sly grin. The dingerbread man thought for a moment and then agreed. He climbed onto the fox's back, holding on as they waded into the river. Soon, the water grew deep, and the fox said, "Climb onto my nose, little one, so you don't get wet." The gingerbreadman climbed up to the fox's nose, and his bell went ding 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 as they reached the other side of the river. But before the fox could snap at him, the gingerbreadman jumped off and ran with all his might, calling, "Run, run, as fast as you can. You still can't catch me, I'm the gingerbreadman." The fox was left with only the sound of the gingerbreadman's bell fading into the distance. And from that day on, the gingerbreadman became a legend, running and ringing his little bell wherever he went. They say you can still hear him sometimes, if you listen closely, a faint ding-ding in the wind, from the little gingerbreadman who could never be caught.
Once upon a time, in a quiet village surrounded by tall, misty mountains, there was a legend of a dragon who lived deep inside a hidden cave. But unlike the scary dragons in the stories the villagers told, this dragon wasn't mean or fierce. He was known as Fernie, the friendly dragon with a kind heart and a treasure unlike any other. The children of the village loved to hear tales of Fernie, but no one had ever seen him. They believed that he had the greatest treasure in the world, hidden deep in the mountains. Some thought it was piles of gold, some said it was sparkling jewels, and others whispered about magical toys that would come to life when touched. One bright morning, 3 adventurous children, Lily, Ben, and Milo, decided they were brave enough to find out for themselves. They packed their bags with snacks, a flashlight, and a map drawn by Milo's grandpa, who had once tried to find the dragon long ago. The 3 friends set off, their excitement bubbling like the stream they followed. After walking for hours, they finally reached the base of the tallest mountain, where the cave was said to be hidden. The entrance was covered in vines, making it look like no one had entered for years. With a deep breath, they pushed the vines aside and entered the cave. It was dark and cool inside, with twinkling stones that lit up their path. As they walked further, the cave opened into a huge room, and there, resting on a large pile of something glittering, was Fernie the dragon. But instead of looking scary, Fernie had soft green scales, bright golden eyes, and a gentle smile. He stretched his wings, which shimmered like the morning dew, and said in a warm, friendly voice, "Welcome, young ones. I've been expecting you." The children were surprised but not afraid. They stepped forward, curious to see what treasure Fernie was guarding. "Is it gold?" Ben asked eagerly. "Is it magical toys?" Milo chimed in. Fernie chuckled softly. "Oh no, my treasure is far more special than that." He moved aside, revealing what he had been sitting on. It wasn't gold or jewels. It wasn't toys or magical items. Instead, the pile was made of books, drawings, letters, and memories from children all around the world. Each one was a piece of someone's heart, filled with kindness, love, and happiness. "These," Fernie explained, "are the greatest treasures of all. Every drawing, every story, and every kind word is worth more than gold. They remind me that there is so much goodness in the world." Lily looked at the drawings with wide eyes. "You mean the treasure is made of love and kindness?" "Exactly," Fernie said, smiling. "The real treasure is what we share with others, and that is what makes the world a brighter place." The children felt their hearts fill with warmth. They understood that while gold and jewels might sparkle, it was love, friendship, and kindness that truly made life special. Before they left, Fernie gave them each a small, shining stone from the cave, a reminder of their adventure and the lesson they had learned. "Carry this with you," he said, "but remember, the real treasure is in your heart." The children thanked Fernie and promised to share what they had learned with everyone in the village. As they made their way home, they couldn't stop smiling, knowing they had found the greatest treasure of all. And from that day on, the villagers no longer feared the dragon. They knew that he wasn't a fierce guardian of riches, but a gentle keeper of love, kindness, and joy.
In the heart of the jungle, the animals were buzzing with excitement. Every year, they celebrated Jungle Festival Day with a big splash at the Great Waterfall. But this year, something strange had happened. The waterfall had mysteriously dried up. Leo the lion, who was usually brave, was worried. "Without the waterfall, there's no celebration," he roared sadly. Ellie the elephant raised her trunk with a wise suggestion, "Let's go on a quest to find the lost water. If we all work together, maybe we can bring it back." Everyone cheered. The team included Benny the monkey, fast and clever. Tina the toucan, sharp-eyed and could spot things from above. Freddy the frog, small but great at finding hidden paths. Zara the zebra, a great runner and very brave. The friends packed a little jungle snack and set off on their quest. As they traveled deeper into the jungle, they faced all kinds of obstacles. First, they came across a wide river. "Oh no! How do we get across?" asked Benny. Tina flapped her colorful wings. "I'll fly above and see if there's a safe crossing nearby." She spotted some sturdy rocks forming a bridge. One by one, they carefully hopped across, Freddy the Frog leading the way. Soon, they heard the sound of water, but it was just a small, trickling stream. Ellie dipped her trunk in and tasted it. "This isn't the waterfall water, it's coming from somewhere else." They kept walking until they reached a dense thicket of vines. Zara bravely volunteered to clear the way, her strong legs pushing through the leaves and branches. Finally, after climbing a tall hill, they found the source of the problem. A big pile of rocks had fallen and blocked the waterfall's flow. Ellie used her trunk to lift the rocks one by one. Leo, Benny, and Zara all pushed with all their might. Finally, with one last big heave, the rocks tumbled down, and the water began to flow again. With a mighty cheer, the friends watched as the water tumbled over the edge, glistening in the sunlight. The great waterfall was back. Back at the festival, everyone splashed, played, and thanked the brave friends for their teamwork. And from that day forward, the animals learned that with friends by your side, no problem is too big to solve. In a cozy forest, there lived a little bird named Bella. Bella loved to sing, and her cheerful songs made the forest feel bright and warm. All the animals enjoyed listening to Bella's tunes, especially a shy squirrel named Sam. Sam wasn't very good at making friends and often felt lonely. One day, Bella noticed Sam sitting alone under a tree, looking sad. She fluttered over to him and asked, "Sam, would you like to sing with me?" Sam shook his head. "Oh, Bella, I'm too shy, and I don't know how to sing like you." Bella thought for a moment, then chirped kindly, "You don't have to sing if you don't want to. You can help me by clapping your paws to the rhythm. Let's do it together." Sam was nervous, but Bella's gentle smile made him feel safe. So, he joined in, clapping along as Bella sang her lovely tune. Soon, other animals gathered around, clapping and tapping along with Sam. His heart filled with joy, and he realized he wasn't so alone. Bella had shared her gift with him, making him feel like he belonged. From that day on, Bella and Sam became the best of friends, singing and clapping together every day. And whenever Sam saw someone else feeling lonely, he'd go over and invite them to join in too. The forest was now filled with more songs and smiles than ever, all thanks to Bella's kindness and her willingness to share her gift. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there was a magical forest filled with trees that whispered, flowers that giggled, and rivers that sparkled under the sun. In this forest lived Lily the rabbit, Benny the bear, and Zara the squirrel. They were the best of friends and loved going on adventures together. One sunny morning, Zara had a wonderful idea. "Let's have a picnic," she squeaked excitedly. Benny clapped his big paws. "Yes. We can bring honey, berries, and some sweet grass." Lily nodded, her ears bouncing. "And I can bring fresh carrots and my special herb salad." The friends packed their baskets and set off to a cozy clearing in the heart of the forest. Along the way, they noticed strange things. The trees seemed to sway to music they couldn't hear, and the flowers whispered secrets to each other. When they reached their picnic spot, they spread a bright checkered cloth on the ground and laid out all their delicious treats. Just as they were about to start eating, a soft voice called out, "May I join you?" It was a tiny fairy named Faye with shimmering wings. Of course, they all said together, delighted. Faye waved her tiny wand, and suddenly, colorful butterflies filled the air, dancing around them. The food looked more delicious than ever, and the forest felt even more magical. Together, they laughed, shared stories, and played games until the sun began to set. As they packed up, Faye smiled and whispered, "Remember, friends make the forest feel magical." With that, she flew away, leaving a trail of sparkling dust in the air. Lily, Benny, and Zara walked back home with full tummies and happy hearts, already dreaming of their next magical forest picnic.
In a bustling city of the future, there lived a robot named Zeno. He wasn't like other robots. While they were perfectly happy doing their tasks, cleaning, building, or helping with everyday chores, Zeno always felt there was something missing. He spent his days watching humans laugh, play, and talk to each other. Though he had no heart, Zeno often wondered what it would feel like to be human. One day, while wandering through the park, Zeno came across an old man sitting on a bench, feeding the birds. The man smiled at him and asked, "Why do you look so sad, little robot?" Zeno replied, "I've always done what I was programmed to do, but I want to feel what you feel. I want to be human." The old man chuckled softly and said, "Being human isn't just about feelings. It's about making choices, learning from mistakes, and caring for others. But if you really want to understand, maybe I can help." Intrigued, Zeno followed the old man to his home, which was filled with books and strange gadgets. After tinkering with Zeno for hours, the man said, "I've given you something special, an ability to learn and grow, like humans do. But it's up to you to discover what being human really means." Zeno thanked the old man and started his journey. At first, everything felt the same. He still followed orders, worked without complaining, and followed the rules. But soon, he began noticing small things. When a child dropped her ice cream, Zeno bent down to help her pick it up, and she smiled at him. It was a warm smile, and for the first time, Zeno felt something inside. Was it happiness? Another day, Zeno saw a dog stuck in a fence. Instead of continuing his duties, he stopped and helped the dog get free. The dog wagged its tail, licked Zeno's hand, and ran off joyfully. Zeno didn't know what it was, but he felt lighter, like helping had made him stronger. As time passed, Zeno learned more about emotions: joy, sadness, excitement, and even fear. He realized that being human was about more than just following commands. It was about making choices, caring for others, and trying new things. But one day, a terrible storm hit the city. People were running for shelter, scared and helpless. Zeno saw a young boy trapped under a fallen tree. Without thinking twice, Zeno rushed to the boy, lifting the heavy tree off him and carrying him to safety.
The boy's mother cried with relief and hugged Zeno, tears streaming down her face. Zeno didn't understand why she was crying, but something inside him knew this was love. When the storm passed, Zeno returned to the old man's house. "I think I understand now," he said. "Being human isn't just about feelings. It's about helping, loving, and caring for others." The old man smiled and said, "You've learned the most important lesson of all, Zeno. In your own way, you've already become more human than you ever realized." From that day forward, Zeno continued to live among the humans, helping them with kindness and love. Though he was still made of metal, his heart was full of all the things that made him feel truly alive.
Once upon a time, deep in the magical waters of the ocean, there was a place called the Shimmering Sea. This part of the ocean sparkled brighter than any other, glowing with colors of the rainbow. It was said that the Shimmering Sea got its magical light from a giant crystal hidden in the ocean's heart. A young mermaid named Myra lived in a small coral village near the Shimmering Sea. She had always loved the beautiful glow of the sea and spent her days swimming through its colorful waters. But one day, Myra noticed something strange. The light of the Shimmering Sea wasn't as bright as it used to be. In fact, each day, it was becoming dimmer and dimmer. Worried, Myra swam to the wise old sea turtle, Taro, who had lived in the ocean for many years. "Taro, what's happening to the Shimmering Sea?" she asked. "Why is it losing its sparkle?" Taro looked sad. "Ah, young one," he said, "the crystal that gives the sea its light is breaking. Small pieces of the crystal have been scattered across the ocean. If we don't find them and put the crystal back together, the Shimmering Sea will lose its magic forever." Myra was determined to save her beloved sea. "I will find the missing pieces," she declared bravely. Taro nodded and gave her a magical shell. "This shell will guide you," he said. "It will glow when you are close to a crystal piece." With her heart full of hope, Myra set off on her adventure. She swam through deep caves, past beautiful coral reefs, and over dark ocean trenches. Along the way, she met many sea creatures who helped her on her journey. A playful dolphin showed her the way through a maze of underwater rocks, and a friendly octopus used its many arms to search for hidden pieces in the sand. After days of searching, Myra finally found the last missing piece of the crystal in a quiet, hidden cove. The magical shell in her hand glowed brightly as she placed the final piece into the crystal. As soon as she did, the shimmering sea lit up once more, brighter and more beautiful than ever before. Myra swam back home, proud of her journey. She had saved the shimmering sea, and all the creatures in the ocean celebrated. From that day on, Myra became known as the Mermaid of Light, the one who saved the shimmering sea. And so, the magical waters continued to sparkle, filling the ocean with light and wonder for years to come.
In a peaceful little village, there lived a curious and joyful girl named Lily. One sunny morning, Lily was skipping happily through the village streets, her little backpack bouncing as she went. She was excited because today she was going to visit her grandpa's garden, a garden unlike any other. When Lily arrived at her grandpa's house, she found him in the middle of his lush, magical garden. It was filled with colorful flowers, tall trees, and glowing plants that seemed to sparkle in the sunlight. "Hello, Grandpa," Lily said excitedly. "Your garden is so beautiful, but why do some of your plants glow?" Grandpa smiled warmly at Lily and said, "These are special plants, Lily. They don't just grow from water and sunlight, they grow because of respect." Lily was puzzled. "Respect? How can plants grow from respect?" Grandpa chuckled and knelt down beside her. "Let me tell you a story. A long time ago, this garden wasn't magical at all. It was barren, and nothing would grow. I asked the wise elders of our village for help, but I didn't listen to their advice. I thought I knew better. No matter what I tried, the plants stayed small and weak." Lily listened closely, imagining the lifeless garden Grandpa was talking about. "One day," Grandpa continued, "I decided to truly listen to the elders. They taught me about patience, kindness, and the importance of respecting their wisdom. Slowly, the plants began to grow. They became strong and full of life, just like these magical ones you see now." Lily's eyes widened in amazement. "Wow, so the more respect you showed, the better the plants grew?" Grandpa nodded. "Yes, Lily. Respecting others, especially those who have more experience, helps us grow in ways we can't always see. It's like giving the garden what it really needs to thrive." Lily smiled and picked up a small watering can. She began to help Grandpa water the glowing plants. As she did, they shimmered even brighter, as if responding to her care. "I think I understand now, Grandpa," Lily said with a big smile. "The more respect we give, the more things can grow, just like your magical plants." As the day came to an end, Grandpa handed Lily a small glowing sapling. "Take this home, and every time you care for it, remember to show respect to those around you, especially your elders." Lily hugged the sapling close. "I will, Grandpa. I promise to always show respect, just like you taught me." With the glowing sapling in hand, Lily waved goodbye to her grandpa and skipped home, her heart full of the wisdom she had learned that day. And from then on, whenever Lily looked at her little plant, she remembered that respect is like a magical seed. It helps us grow stronger, wiser, and kinder.
Once upon a time in the heart of a glowing, enchanted forest, there was a magical place called Fairyland. The land sparkled with twinkling lights, colorful trees, and rivers that shimmered under the sunlight. At the center of this enchanted world stood a magnificent crystal castle where 7 fairies lived. One day, near a beautiful lake, a fairy with flowing blue hair and shimmering wings floated above the water. With a playful flick of her wand, she created gentle waves. Nearby, another fairy with curly green hair and a crown of flowers danced among the trees, causing flowers and vines to bloom wherever she touched. In the distance, a fiery fairy with bright red hair and golden wings twirled near a volcano, spinning small fireballs in her hands. Meanwhile, in the starry sky above, a silver-haired fairy with glowing wings floated gracefully, her presence lighting up the night and twinkling stars. Across the meadow, a gentle fairy with soft pink hair soared through the sky, creating soft breezes with her delicate wings. And not far from her, a radiant fairy with bright yellow hair and golden wings sent dazzling beams of light through the air, illuminating the land below. Finally, a fairy with rainbow-colored hair and ever-changing wings cast colorful transformation spells, bringing ordinary objects to life. The fairies gathered at the entrance of their crystal castle for a special meeting, laughing and chatting together. But as they shared stories, a dark shadow began to spread over fairyland. The once bright sky grew dim, and ominous clouds crept in, casting a gloomy haze over their world. Two fairies, the one from the lake and the one from the forest, took flight to investigate. They noticed the water turning dark and the trees beginning to wither. Their eyes filled with worry as they tried to use their powers to heal the land. But something stronger was at play. The fiery fairy, filled with determination, flew toward the growing darkness. She shot small fireballs into the cloud, hoping to push it back. But the more she attacked, the larger and stronger the darkness grew. Forced to retreat, she returned to her sisters with a heavy heart. Suddenly, the silver-haired fairy, using her connection to the night, closed her eyes and saw a vision of the future. The stars revealed a powerful sorceress hiding within the dark cloud, the true source of the growing threat. The radiant yellow fairy and the rainbow-haired fairy whispered together, forming a plan. One created orbs of energy, while the other transformed nearby objects into magical creatures, preparing for the battle ahead. As they worked together, the pink-haired fairy called upon her powers, spinning through the air and summoning a fierce windstorm. The storm whirled around her, but despite its strength, the darkness continued to spread. Suddenly, from the heart of the cloud, the wicked sorceress emerged, her dark gown swirling with shadows and her piercing eyes glowing with malice. The fairies, undaunted, gathered together, forming a circle. Their hands began to glow, and together they created a radiant, multicolored shield to protect their world. The sorceress sent a powerful wave of dark magic toward the fairies. Sparks flew as her dark energy collided with their shield, the forces battling in midair. The rainbow-haired fairy, seeing her chance, stepped forward and cast a transformation spell. With a brilliant flash of rainbow light, the dark magic surrounding the sorceress began to break apart. The sorceress, losing her powers, transformed into a harmless butterfly, fluttering away into the distance. As she disappeared, the dark clouds lifted, and fairyland was once again bright and full of life. The 7 fairies flew high into the sky, laughing and cheering, their wings glowing with happiness. A vibrant rainbow appeared behind them as they danced through the air, celebrating the return of peace to their magical land. And so, fairyland was safe once again, thanks to the bravery and unity of the 7 fairies. They lived happily, protecting their enchanted world from any danger that might come their way.
Once upon a time, in a land filled with sparkling rainbows and shimmering rivers, there was a secret place known only in legends, Unicorn Island. The island was said to be home to the most beautiful, magical unicorns in the world, where the air was filled with the sweet scent of flowers and the sky sparkled like diamonds. One sunny afternoon, a curious little girl named Lily found an old, tattered map in her grandmother's attic. The map had a glowing unicorn drawn on it and a tiny message that read, "Find the heart of magic, Unicorn Island awaits." Excited, Lily ran to her best friend, a playful puppy named Scout, and together they decided to follow the map. The journey was long and full of wonder. First, they walked through the enchanted forest, where trees whispered secrets, and friendly squirrels guided them along hidden paths. Then, they crossed the glowing river on a bridge made entirely of crystal, which sparkled as they stepped on it. As they neared the island, a rainbow appeared in the sky, stretching from the land to the horizon. Following it, they finally arrived at Unicorn Island. It was more magical than Lily had ever imagined. Glittering waterfalls, candy-colored trees, and gentle breezes welcomed them. Suddenly, the most majestic creature appeared before them, a unicorn with a shimmering silver coat and a golden horn. "Welcome, brave travelers," said the unicorn in a soft, melodious voice. "I am Starshine, the guardian of Unicorn Island. You have been chosen to embark on a magical journey." Starshine led Lily and Scout to the center of the island, where they met other unicorns, each one more beautiful than the next.
One had wings made of stardust, another had a mane that glowed like the sun, and another could turn invisible in the blink of an eye. Each unicorn shared its special power with Lily, teaching her lessons of kindness, bravery, and the importance of dreams. The unicorns took Lily on thrilling adventures, flying through the clouds, dancing among the stars, and sliding down rainbow waterfalls. She and Scout laughed and played, feeling the pure joy that filled the magical island. But as the sun began to set, Starshine gently told Lily it was time to return home. "Remember, Lily," said Starshine, "Unicorn Island will always be in your heart. As long as you believe in magic, you can find it again." With a heart full of happiness and memories she would never forget, Lily and Scout said their goodbyes. Starshine used her magic to create the shining rainbow bridge, and they walked across it, returning home safely. From that day on, whenever Lily closed her eyes and imagined, she could still feel the magic of Unicorn Island. And every time a rainbow appeared in the sky, she knew it was a reminder of her magical journey and her friends, the unicorns.